Hello everybody, Glass Half Dead here, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about my personal journey, that's a weird thing to say, into competitive kill team kind of, but not just competitive kill team, but you know what, let's just talk. Let's just talk, see what happens. I like rules. I think we can all get behind that, and I like rules, and I have an inbuilt belief in authority, okay? If somebody comes along and says with force and determination, hey, this is the best way to play the game, I'm going to say, oh, yeah, that guy knows what he's talking about. I'm going to play it his way. And, of course, that person is Games Workshop. That's just easy. It makes sense, doesn't it? It's like, okay, well, I'm buying their product and they have developed it and tested it clearly. You know, they are professionals. They do this to a level that no rank amateur like myself could ever achieve. So, I shall do whatever they say, and I will follow their texts, the religious text, the holy text that is the Kill Team Manual. And that's honestly the way I have always been when it comes to any sort of board game, card game, etc. If the company that owns it says this is how the game is played, I've agreed and I've said, yes, let's play the game that way. Now, some of you guys may not have this hang-up, may not have this problem, but I know that a lot of people are new to not just Kill Team, but board games, Warhammer, war games, etc., RPGs, whatever, in general, and they see Kill Team and they look at it as a small game compared to the big scary 40k, and they're like, yeah, I'll try that. And of course, you will then look at the rules, and maybe you're like me and you say, oh, we should play it exactly the way it says in here. And when you get to a confusing wording in the rules, maybe you just logic it out and say, okay, well, you know, they didn't get that rule quite right, but it doesn't detract from the rest of the book, which is totally fair. I agree, it doesn't. The fact that the book itself has some vague rulings and wordings doesn't mean that the book is not a good book and isn't competitive in some manner. Totally agree. However, I will also say that I have never been as into a game as Kill Team. I've never known the rules as deeply to any game as I have to Kill Team. Now that I do know the rules well enough that I could, for example, almost off the top of my head, add a unit or a faction, you know, homebrew a faction without breaking the game. I could probably do that relatively easily, right? You know, that is a certain level of knowledge about a game. I'm not going to say I'm going to do that, I'm just saying, yeah, I probably could. And at that point, you realise, oh, I'm kind of allowing myself to create something that isn't in the game that I want to be in the game. You know, people did it with Kroot before the White Dwarf with Kroot came out. I've seen people do it with Sisters of Battle. I've seen people have a go at doing it with sub-factions, you know, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, etc., before the Elites book came out. Cool. Now there was still this part of me that saw these custom homebrew rules and thought, well, that's not Games Workshop. That's not the way it's meant to be played. This is honestly a voice inside me that I have to squash at the moment. Because as I know the rules deep enough, and of course other people know the rules deep enough as well, I have to finally admit, Games Workshop isn't very good at writing competitive rules. And this isn't just Kill Team. This is all of their games. For example, and this is partly why I bring this up now, Games Workshop last weekend ran a Warhammer 40,000 tournament. This is not an odd thing in and of itself. However, at that tournament, they made an interesting ruling. Now, Games Workshop has its own competitive format, which it releases in chapter approved. So you get, you know, a mission pack, you can play, yeah, we all know what a competitive format is. Cool, I don't need to define that. However, there are many, many, many competing competitive formats within 40k that are being pushed by the community. That's also great. Multiple formats, cool. But you could argue the legitimacy of these other formats at the moment, because Games Workshop is finally getting back into the competitive formats that they used to do. Then they went away, and we had third-party communities come in and say, okay, well, Games Workshop isn't doing this anymore. We're going to fill that gap. But now Games Workshop's coming back. And don't get me wrong, they're being very, very supportive of these third-party companies or people, communities that are doing this competitive 40k, Age of Sigmar, etc. But they're also putting in their own format. So why am I mentioning this? Right, Warhammer World, last weekend, what did they do? They were running a tournament, and at this tournament, they realised that the Warhammer World, minor gripe about Warhammer World, meant to be the best, the premier, amazing, the people make a bloody pilgrimage to it. It's not very good. Like, you know, for competitive games there, it's not very good. You have to play on Realm of Battle boards, which kind of suck. They might look nice. I'd rather play on, a battle map or whatever. Your dice fly everywhere as soon as you roll them. You probably lose all your dice. And the big issue in this tournament was the terrain, because it turned out that the terrain really wasn't fit for purpose. Games Workshop terrain looks amazing. Look, nobody's doubting that. There's no questions. Games Workshop terrain does look amazing. However, it's really not fit for purpose. Nothing blocks line of sight when it comes to 40k. And I understand why. I mean, when you have this amazing, incredibly skilled artists working on terrain, you don't want to create a block of foam. You want something that's a spectacle, especially when people are going to pay for that. So I understand. However, competitively, doesn't work. And so Games Workshop, the tournament guys there actually went ahead, and on the day, so this is another thing, they did this on the day. They didn't announce this beforehand. This was just on the day. They said, by the way, we're going to use a third-party rule set, I believe it was ITC, for our terrain. What this was, it wasn't a major thing. It was just that in the ITC format for 40k, if there are multi-level ruins, then the bottom level of the ruins count as a line of sight blocking. That's it. Because basically, with Games Workshop terrain, there is no line of sight blocking on the single floor ruins. There's always windows you can see through, and I believe the way 40k works is if you can see a single model, you can see the whole squad, etc. Whatever. But the actual nuances there are irrelevant. What we are concerned about is the fact that Games Workshop, I won't say they openly admit it, because they didn't. They didn't put it out as a rule pack before the event and say, hey, this is what we're doing. They waited until the day, presumably when nobody was recording, and said, hey, by the way, guys, we're going to use this rule. Don't get me wrong, it's a great rule, but it's also a total admission that not only is Games Workshop itself faulty, but that the community can do it better. Anyway, this has been a bit of a long ramble to just kind of come to my conclusions that if you know the game very well, and you know that the company openly admits that they are not great at writing competitive rules, why not do it yourself? Look, this isn't like some huge revelation. And I've been thinking this way for the past month or two, to be honest. But still, it's taken me like 10 months to really get behind community-driven rules and say, yeah, you know what, that tournament pack, yeah, let's play it that way, because I actually think that's better than the way Games Workshop wrote it. It's taken me a long time. Again, just because of my own natural preferences, to the appeal to authority that I have naturally kind of ingrained in me. But I'm there. I am now looking at community written rules and guidelines and tournaments and saying, that is so much better than what Games Workshop is doing. Why would we not consider it a legitimate way to do things? This can extend to the whole of Kill Team, whether it's we should take commanders or we shouldn't take commanders. Games Workshop doesn't want us to run commanders in competitive. Maybe we should. Maybe we can change the rules to the point that we can make them competitive. Games Workshop states 100 points. Well, maybe we don't want to play 100 points. Games Workshop states 20-man command rosters. Maybe we don't want 20-man command rosters. Games Workshop wants us to play very, very specifically objective holding missions. Maybe those are not the most balanced missions. Games Workshop wants the doors in Arena to be bullshit. Maybe we don't want them to be bullshit. Ultimately, all of this is me saying that I personally have gone through a personal journey and am ready to fully embrace community-driven rules, but also to maybe create my own. I don't know. This is just another video that I'm putting out there to kind of talk to you guys, the community, about community-driven rules and making our own rule sets and how we all really think about that. Because it's great for me or Beerinit to get up on our channel and say, hey, what about this? You can't really talk back in a meaningful way. The only meaningful way there really is of course, is to make a tournament pack, put those tickets on sale and see how many people turn up and see how many people hate you by the end of the day. If the tickets sell and then you do the same tournament again and the tickets still sell, you've won. Congratulations. But people out there are still sticklers for the rules. There are people in my comments saying, you know, I suggest something, oh, maybe we should give Commanders a try. You know, the first line of their comment, we should not give Commanders a try. They're unbalanced. I've played them. They're fucked up, mate. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, maybe we could change the objectives and slightly modify the rules, or maybe even go as far as to create a ban list. Nah, mate, they're fucked. It's like, oh, okay. Good conversation we're having. Nice bit of back and forth. I like it. Okay. Now, of course, I'm not trying to say that every idea I have and throw out there is pure spun gold. Not at all. Obviously, I'm just kind of throwing ideas out, seeing what sticks, and I really am reading all of my comments just to see what you guys think, because ultimately I am kind of thinking that I do want to create my own tournament, my own format, my own rule pack. Not because I think other people haven't done it well already. You know, Alex from Kill Team Academy has done his BAO thing. I think that's great. I think that's a great rule pack. You know, I've got one or two minor issues with it, but aside from that, it's really strong. But I don't know. Just I've got a channel. I'm crazy enough to have a YouTube channel only about Kill Team, so I must like it. I assume, maybe. So, you know, it's just kind of another way to do, it's another aspect of the game that I can dive into. And I can really dive into now because I actually know things about the game. I truly believe I could build a better set of rules than Games Workshop has given us from a tournament perspective. Not only more fun, but more balanced. And I fully expect that some of my ideas, people will listen to them and say, you're nuts. That's... You know, you've taken it too far away from the core Kill Team tournament experience, and I don't want that. And that's fair. I understand that. I understand the natural resistance. I also understand that the way I might want to run things and the things I might find fun and balanced, other people might not. Fair enough. Also, there is the natural tendency that all people have to want things a very, very specific way. Everybody has this, especially in gaming. You come out and you say, hey guys, I'm running a 125-point tournament, no commanders, and it's going to be arena only because that's the most competitive format. And people will say, oh, arena, it's not at 100 points? Kill yourself, please. And I mainly think that's kind of a negative knee-jerk reaction that most people that decide to create any sort of content, in this case, I mean, you know, tournament format content, just have to kind of ignore and actually wait for genuine play-tested feedback. But that's still an issue, and obviously I expect to get that in my comments quite a lot. Okay, and final thing, I need to talk about formats and why they're okay. For example, Mike Brandt of Nova has very clearly stated he's keeping his tournament at 100 points. That's great. I don't hugely want to play at 100 points anymore. I'm loving 125. I'm loving the idea of commanders. I want to play more. You know, I want to have a big list, guys. I want to use it. But I still think 100 points is a totally valid tournament format. I think it should exist. That's great. And I think it's okay to have a tournament not be the same as other tournaments. I think Alex's Kill Team Academy's BAO tournament is also great, and he's bumped it up to 125 points. Elite. Great. I want that. I want his exact tournament pack as it is right now playing. That is not a negative that these two formats are different. I also think that other formats can exist. I also think Commanders at 200 points. It's a great format. Why not have it? We've got to learn that just because we have a personal preference for one format doesn't mean other formats are negative. And it also means, let's say we're only attending what? A proper tournament? Tops. We're going to do it once a quarter. So 4 times a year. That's all we're doing, right? Once a quarter. Is it that much of a hassle in 3 months to change your list from 100 points to 125? Or from 125 to 200 commanders? If anything, shouldn't that be a fun change? I don't know about you guys, but after I played Warhammer World Arena, 100 points, no elites, obviously, 4 elites, no commanders, because Games Workshop hates commanders, apparently. I didn't want to play any more Arena. And I didn't. In fact, I didn't play Kill Team at all for like a month and a half. I didn't play Arena. I haven't played another Arena game. But now that there's been a bit of time, it has been about 3 months, I guess. A little bit more? Don't know. Since that occurred, I'm loving the idea of some Arena games again. And I think that downtime between specific formats of tournaments is really good. And I don't think we should see these things as negative. I don't think that we need to have a unified single tournament system. That doesn't make any sense. We can have multiple formats. That's good. We don't need to push for one defining format for the game. Anyway, that's all I really had to say. It was just kind of my journey into accepting community rules and how we don't need to like aggressively like clamp down on any format that we personally don't like, because that will kill the creativity and it will stifle the Kill Team formats that we may be able to create if we're a little bit more open about our ideas. And it's okay to not like the idea of certain formats, for example, 200 commanders. It's very divisive. Very divisive. And I totally get why. Trust me. I do. Like, the way the game is formatted, at its core, to be objective-based, to favour hordes, yeah, Commanders isn't very balanced in that regard. But we can change things. And anyway, this is me saying, let's change things together. This has been Glass Half Dead, discussing certain things about Kill Team competitive tournaments. I hope you've had a great day, and I hope you continue to have a great day. Goodbye. Do you see this? In this tower? All of this is like, I'm getting rid of it. It's Warhammer crap that I've had lying around, taking up space for like a year minimum. It's untouched, it's unopened. Or the big stack here, unopened, this smaller stack opened. I have a problem, guys. I do not have enough money or space to keep this crap anymore. It's going. I have an entire Blades of Corn army. I have an entire Gene Stealer Colts army. I have a problem. Please, my God, help me.